Have you ever noticed how the word ex carries weight in your chest? Like a scar you can't quite stop touching. You tell yourself you've moved on. You even convince your friends that you're fine, but deep down, her name still lives in the corners of your mind. The late night scrolling, the silent wondering, the little flash of jealousy when you see she's smiling with someone else. It's not just harmless curiosity. It's your psyche struggling to detach from a bond that once defined your sense of self. And here's the truth most men never hear. Wanting to stay friends with an ex is rarely about friendship. It's about clinging to a piece of the intimacy that you lost. A desperate attempt to keep the door cracked open, just in case she looks back. But I want you to pause and ask yourself, are you holding on to her? Or are you just terrified of the emptiness without her? Because men don't just lose women when relationships end. They lose routine, validation, and the version of themselves that existed in her eyes. You're not chasing her friendship. You're chasing the mirror she once held up to your identity. And here's where psychology cuts through the illusion. Women know this. They feel it in the subtle ways you look at them, in the hesitation of your words, in the silence that stretches too long. A woman knows when your friendship is really about keeping a lifeline to the comfort you once had. She may agree to stay connected, not because she truly wants friendship, but because women, by nature, understand the power of leaving emotional hooks in a man's mind. It's not malicious, it's instinctive. The question is whether you can recognize it before it eats away at your progress. Every time you answer her message, every time you replay her laughter in your head, you're wiring your brain to remain loyal to a ghost. And ghosts don't love you back. They haunt you, they slow you down, they whisper to you at night when you should be building the man you were meant to become. So let me ask you, if staying friends with your ex is really about proving you've moved on, why does the thought of losing her completely still make your stomach twist? Let's strip away the polite excuses for a moment. When a man says, "We're just friends now," what he often means is, "I'm keeping her close because I can't stand the idea of her belonging to someone else." It's not about friendship, it's about control, ego, and fear. And women can feel that energy without a single word being spoken. You may think you're masking it well, but psychology exposes you. Your body language, your tone, even the micro expressions you don't realize you make when she mentions another man. It's all written across your presence. And here's the paradox. The more you try to hold on to her under the disguise of friendship, the more invisible you become in her eyes. Women respect men who can let go, not those who orbit them like satellites, always available, always waiting for scraps of connection. Now, some men convince themselves that staying friends is a sign of maturity. But maturity isn't measured by how long you keep your ex in your life. It's measured by how fully you can let her go and still stand tall. Think of it this way. A wound cannot close if you keep ripping the stitches open just to check if it's healed. And friendship with an ex, especially when desire, attachment, or jealousy still lingers, is exactly that, ripping the stitches. You bleed again, you scar deeper, and you pretend it's progress. But your subconscious knows better. And don't think women are naive in this. They may say, "Let's just stay friends," but beneath those words is often a hidden psychological strategy. For some women, keeping you around as a friend is about keeping their options open. You become emotional insurance. She knows you'll answer her call, validate her beauty, maybe even rush to help when she needs it. And every time you show up, she subconsciously reinforces her own value while keeping you tethered. It's not always intentional cruelty, it's human nature. People like to know they still matter, even if they've moved on. The problem is, while she secures her sense of significance, you delay your growth. You can't chase new horizons if you're still walking circles around your past. So here's the burning truth. Friendship with an ex is rarely neutral. It's either a disguise for lingering feelings, or it's her way of keeping you as an emotional safety net. Either way, you're not free. And a man who is not free cannot step fully into his power. You see, Men often underestimate how deeply intimacy rewires the brain. When you share vulnerability, laughter, and yes, your body, with a woman, your nervous system binds those experiences together as memory. That's why even years later, a song, a scent, or the way someone laughs can throw you back into her orbit. It's not weakness, it's biology. But here's the danger. When you decide to keep an ex as a friend, you're not just maintaining contact, you're feeding the very neural circuits that keep her alive inside of you. Every message, every casual coffee meetup, every late-night call when she's lonely, it keeps your brain from releasing her. You may believe you've moved on, but your chemistry betrays you. And women? They sense that hesitation, that unfinished attachment, like a sixth sense. She knows when you're still entangled, even if you deny it. And here's what you need to hear, even if it cuts deep. A woman cannot truly respect a man who clings to her shadow. Respect is born when she sees you have the strength to sever ties, to choose your growth over your comfort, to walk away from what no longer serves your evolution. Every time you say yes to her out of fear of losing her completely, you're saying no to your future self. And men who say no to their own future end up bitter, confused, and resentful. There's a subtle power dynamic at play too. When you remain her friend, you give her the privilege of access to your world without the responsibility of commitment. She gets the comfort of your presence, your attention, even your protection. But you get none of the intimacy, none of the exclusivity, none of the depth you once shared. It's like being on the team but never allowed back on the field. And if you're honest with yourself, doesn't that sting more than losing her completely? Because deep down, you know you're playing a role she scripted for her benefit, not yours. So ask yourself this: if you cut ties fully and completely, what would happen? Yes, the silence would hurt at first. The loneliness would crawl up your spine at night. But that pain, that's the crucible of transformation. That's where you discover who you are without her reflection. That's where you stop being her backup and start becoming your own foundation. And until you do that, you're not a man who's moved on. You're a man stuck in emotional quicksand. Let's talk about what really happens when you decide to stay friends. You enter a silent battlefield of unspoken expectations. You tell yourself you're being noble, but beneath the surface, there's tension. You still notice the way she looks at other men. You still feel that surge of adrenaline when her name lights up your phone. And when she tells you about her new life, maybe even a new lover, you force a smile while your stomach knots. That's not friendship. That's emotional self-harm disguised as maturity. And the most dangerous part? You normalize it. You start to believe this arrangement is healthy, when in reality, it's keeping you shackled to an identity that no longer exists. From a psychological lens, what you're doing is reenacting attachment patterns. Men with anxious attachment hold on to avoid abandonment. Men with avoidant attachment keep the door cracked so they can feel control. But both are trapped in cycles that erode their confidence. And women? They pick up on this instantly. When you orbit around her after the breakup, she reads it as proof that you're not standing on your own 2 feet. She may not say it out loud, but she feels it. You haven't truly let go, and therefore you haven't truly grown. Here's the brutal truth. When you allow an ex to stay in your life without clear boundaries, you block new women from entering it. Energy doesn't lie. A woman senses when your heart is still haunted. She can feel the ghost of your ex in the way you hesitate, the way you compare, the way you hold back pieces of yourself. And no woman wants to compete with a ghost. By clinging to yesterday, you're sabotaging your tomorrow. But listen closely. This is not about hating your ex or erasing her from your story. It's about reclaiming your space. You honor what you shared by letting it rest, not by keeping it on life support. Real strength is saying, "Thank you for the chapter, but this book needs to continue without you." That's where a man's dignity is forged. not in how long he can linger, but in how decisively he can step forward. So when you call her a friend, ask yourself, is this friendship empowering you? Or is it feeding the part of you that fears being alone? The answer to that question will expose whether you're free or whether you're just pretending. There's something you need to hear that most men never do. Women rarely look back at their ex the same way men do. A man will often romanticize what was lost, replaying the good memories like a highlight reel, editing out the parts that broke him. But a woman, once she's detached, stores the relationship differently. She remembers not just the passion, but the reasons she left. That's why staying friends rarely means the same thing to both of you. For you, it feels like holding on to a chance, a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, the spark could reignite. For her, it's often closure dressed up as connection. She gets to move forward knowing you're still orbiting her, proof that she was unforgettable. That's not equality, it's asymmetry. And here's where it cuts the deepest. Women respect men who can create absence. When you vanish, when you remove your energy completely, something shifts. She has to confront the void you leave behind. But when you remain her friend, she never truly feels your absence. She never has to question what life without you feels like, because you never give her the space to miss you. And men who are never missed are men who slowly fade from a woman's heart, even if they once lit it on fire. Think about it. What does friendship with an ex truly give you? You can't hold her like before. You can't claim her as yours. You're watching her life from the sidelines, feeding on fragments while pretending they're enough. That's not friendship. That's slow starvation. You're nourishing yourself on crumbs when you once had the whole feast. And if you're honest, it's not satisfying you. It's keeping you stuck, addicted to a comfort that actually weakens you. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Staying friends with an ex is a hidden form of self-betrayal. You think you're protecting yourself from loneliness, but you're really avoiding the growth that comes from facing it. Loneliness is not your enemy, it's your teacher. It carves out space inside you so something new can enter. But if you keep her as a placeholder, your heart never fully empties, and nothing powerful can truly take root. So, let me ask you plainly, is this friendship really about love, or is it just about fear? Because if it's fear, then you're not her friend. You're her prisoner. And the key has always been in your hands. So now let's bring it to the point you've been avoiding. Can you be friends with your ex? The blunt answer, yes, but almost never without cost. Because friendship demands equality. And when history, desire, and heartbreak still breathe between two people, equality is almost impossible. Either you still want her in ways she doesn't want you, or she keeps you close for validation she doesn't deserve from you anymore. And in both cases, your soul pays the price. You lose time. You lose clarity. You lose the very masculine edge that only comes from embracing loss fully instead of numbing it with half measures. You see, men are forged in the fire of detachment, not coldness, not cruelty, but the courage to let go completely. Every man who has ever risen above heartbreak has done it by burning the bridge, not by camping on it. It hurts, it breaks you down, but it also remakes you into something stronger, sharper, unshakable. When you remain friends with her, you're not choosing strength, you're choosing sedation. You're keeping yourself just comfortable enough to avoid growth. And comfort, for a man, is the slowest form of death. Now, don't mistake this for bitterness. Letting go doesn't mean erasing her. It means honoring what you had by not watering it down into something lesser. It means remembering her as a chapter that shaped you, but refusing to let her define the ending of your story. You cannot write new pages if your pen is still tracing old lines. You cannot build a kingdom if you're still standing guard at the ruins of a castle that already fell. So here's what I'll leave you with. If you're holding on to an ex as a friend, ask yourself the raw question: Do I keep her here because I value who I am today, or because I fear who I'd be without her? That one question will expose whether you're living as a free man or a chained one. Now I want to hear from you. Be honest with yourself and with me. Would you ever stay friends with an ex, and why? Drop your answer in the comments. I read everyone. And if this hit you in the gut, like I know it did, don't just keep it to yourself. Subscribe, like this video, and share it with the friend who desperately needs to hear these words today. The truth most men don't want to face is this. When you stay friends with an ex, you create a silent hierarchy where she remains at the top. Think about it. She moved on. She chose to end things. She reclaimed her freedom. Yet you remain, lingering in her orbit, available whenever she wants to talk, listen, or lean on you. That imbalance quietly erodes your self-respect, even if you don't admit it. Every time you answer her call at midnight, every time you console her about a new man, you're reinforcing the story that her needs matter more than your healing. That's not strength. That's self-abandonment disguised as loyalty. And here's the psychological twist. Women are wired to test the strength of a man's boundaries. Not always consciously, but instinctively. When she suggests staying friends, it's not just about kindness. It's about seeing whether you have the courage to walk away. If you accept, she knows she still has influence over you. But if you decline with clarity, you rise in her eyes, even if she never says it out loud. Women don't admit this, but they feel a deep respect for men who choose their dignity over their desperation. Because only a man who can lose her completely is a man who can truly stand on his own. But men rarely think that way. They think, if I walk away, she'll forget me. No, if you stay, she'll forget you faster, because you'll blend into the background noise of her life, a familiar voice that's always there, never missed, never valued. Absence, not presence, creates impact. When you're gone, she has to feel the edges of the void you left behind. She has to wonder, even briefly, how you could choose to remove yourself. And in that silence, you reclaim your power. This isn't about punishing her. It's about protecting you, protecting your future from being consumed by a past that cannot return. Every ounce of energy you spend maintaining a tie to her is energy stolen from the man you're supposed to become. Do you really want to keep investing in a chapter that's already been written? Or do you want to step into the unknown, where your next chapter could eclipse everything that came before? That decision, right there, is the difference between a man trapped in nostalgia and a man forging his destiny.